send me the link?
It's not live.
Oh.
Okay. Here we go. We are just getting set up over here. We'll do some live painting shortly. Thanks for joining me today. All right. I'm just going to elevate this a bit. All right, we're just setting up here. We're going to go live very shortly. Hello, everyone. We're just getting set up here for a live painting session. We're just getting set up here. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Tiffany. I'm the owner and sorry, just working out some of the technical issues, but I'm the owner and artist behind TS Originals Art. Today we're going to be doing a bit of live painting, which will be really exciting, and I'm going to do an abstract painting this time. So yesterday, if you joined me, I was doing a painting based off of a photo that I took at Evergreen Brickworks. So it was just more of a stylized, somewhat realistic painting. And so here I'm going to do an abstract painting today. Just a little bit about my shop, TS Originals Art. You can find me on my Etsy shop. I sell original acrylic paintings as well as calligraphy art. As you can see behind me, I have a few different signs and different fonts and different backgrounds. And I also sell art prints as well. So select numbers of my art prints, of my acrylic paintings are available as art prints as well. Most of my art prints are 8 inches by 10 inches. So I'm going to get started today with a bit of live painting, if you'll join me. So my first step in live painting, I'm just going to get a bunch of my tools, is to make sure the edges stay clean. So I'm going to do a bit of taping around the edges just to make sure it's nice and clean. Just prepping the canvas at this point. Just to make sure the edges stay nice and white and free from paint that I'll be putting on. So this abstract technique that I'm going to do today, I want to create something that has a lot of texture. That's kind of my goal for today. So I'll be using molding paste, adding that to my acrylic paint to add a lot of texture. I think that's going to make a very interesting painting. And I'm just using an 18 by 18 inch canvas today. And you're welcome to ask any questions you have in the chat box. You can also ask to come on live with me if you want to see any of my products. I'm happy to show them. I have a number of different products with here in studio right now. So I have a lot of my acrylic paintings, as you can see behind me. I also have some of my art prints in this box as well. So I can show you anything if you're looking to, if you want to see different angles of my paintings, I'm happy to show them to you. Okay, so we're all set up. I'm going to do an abstract painting, but I also want to make really sharp lines in this painting. So I'm going to use this Scotch glue masking tape. I'm going to just create a bunch of different triangles so I can fill them in with different colors. Now it's going to be a bit tricky because I don't necessarily want any of the white space underneath these. So I'm going to have to tape it a few times in this technique. So I'll be putting on tape, removing tape. It'll be a fun adventure with you. Just make sure it's on there directly. And then we'll do, let's say, a triangle down here. So it's really up to you, like how big you would, if you were doing something like this at home, how big you would make the triangles or what it would look like. Lots of different possibilities with this type of painting. Okay. So my shop is TS Originals Art, and welcome to everyone who's joining me. I'm doing an abstract painting here, and I'm just putting on a bit of tape because I want those really, really crisp lines. As you'll see in my shop, I do a lot. I offer original acrylic paintings. I also have calligraphy signs, which you can see behind me, as well as art prints. So I have a select number of acrylic paintings available as art prints, and these are typically 8-inch by 10-inch. So I have a few, just to continue on with this, I have an 18 by 18-inch canvas here. I threw on a bit of tape just to get those crisp lines, and what I'll be doing is kind of removing them and putting them on as I go throughout the 2 hours of live painting. So I think we can get started here. Just a few lines, but you got to start somewhere, I guess. So I'll grab my utensils here. I'll be putting on the paint this time around with palette knives. So I have 3 different options here. This one is obviously my most loved, so I'll be using this one a lot. And then these are the newer ones I have as well. So just to try and get that nice crisp line. And I'm going to use modeling paste. So it's going to give the acrylic paint really nice, thick texture. If you see some of my paintings, I love bright, bold colors and texture. Those are my 2 favorites. So we're going to try and do both today in this abstract painting. So the color scheme for this, I haven't really planned it out, but I'm thinking I'm going to do kind of an orange between, so somewhat of a yellow to red spectrum, and then also including some purples as well. So we're going to get started. I'm going to use, let me just move some things out of the way here. I'm going to use a crimson color as well as a cadmium yellow light hue to start off with. So I'm going to mix my colors first, and then we're going to mix in the modeling paste. So just putting my colors down here. I have a paper palette with me that I'm using, which is super handy. And I'm going to get the yellow. And always paper towels. It's a very handy part of painting as well. So I'm just going to grab that quickly. So palette, I just put on my crimson right here, and I'm going to add my yellow to the palette as well. I'm just getting my paper towel. Okay. All right. So I'm going to want to create a bunch of different colors kind of along the spectrum from yellow to red. So I'll do, I don't necessarily want to do a pure yellow or a pure red. So what I'll do is mix kind of a lighter orange to darker oranges that I want to put on here. So let's just start with this. Got my cadmium yellow light hue and my crimson, and I'm going to start mixing. And as I'm mixing, tell you a bit about my shop if you're joining me. So I'm Tiffany. I'm the owner and artist behind TS Originals Art. And so I sell original acrylic paintings. Oh, that's quite dark actually. So original acrylic paintings. I also sell calligraphy signs, which you can see behind me, as well as art prints. And many of my art prints are 8 inches by 10 inches. You'll always have free shipping on my art prints. And right now you can get 15% off with the coupon code MADELOCAL. So it's made local in all caps and one word. So if you use that coupon code upon checkout, you'll get 15% off my entire Etsy shop, which is really exciting. And it's only available to customers of this show. So anyway, no one else has access to this coupon code. So that's exclusively for you. Okay, so I made an orange here just by mixing it. I definitely want a lighter shade, so I'm going to take a bit more yellow and just a touch of the red. So try and make a lighter shade. So I'm using an 18 by 18 inch canvas today. And I've put a bit of tape down because I really want some nice crisp lines. And I'm going to be adding, as I said, molding paste because I want to get tons of texture. So when you add molding paste to the acrylic paints here, it does add a little bit of white. So whatever pigment you have here, it'll turn a bit white. But I'm okay because I really like kind of, it sometimes gives it a nice pastel look. So you can tailor it to how much white you want it. You can add more pigment if you don't like it. But we'll test around today and have some fun and see what comes out. All right, so I'm going to use a little bit of that yellow. So I made a much lighter orange here, as you can see. So mixing the yellow and the crimson. And I'm going to try and make potentially something in between. So I want to just try and make a spectrum here of different colors. So as I said, I'm going to do this painting on a spectrum of colors from yellow to red. So that's using the cadmium yellow light hue and also the crimson. But I'm also, I think eventually, if I have a few more triangles that I'm going to fill in, I'm also going to be putting some purples in here as well. I love, love, love purples. So yeah. And if you have any questions along the way about my Etsy shop, about me, about what I'm painting here today, you can always ask to go live with me and come on video. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, that's fine too. You could just type in the chat box and you'll find the chat box under Chat with Makers. It's the tab on your right-hand side there. At least it is on my right-hand side, so I hope it is for you if you're using mobile. But that's the tab you're looking for. So this is kind of in between these two colors. As you see, this is the lightest one. So I'm going to get started with these, but I can make different, again, colors along the spectrum as I go. But I'll start with this. And my next step now is to mix in the molding paste. So you'll see automatically it's going to lighten up the color when I add it in. But also it's going to just really, really add tons of thickness, which is really exciting. So here's my molding paste. I always use Speedball molding paste, one of my faves. If I could open it, that'd be great. It's also harder doing it when you're holding a palette, but that's okay. All right, so I'm gonna pull some of this out. And the triangles here aren't too big, so I might not need too much, but it depends how much thickness you want. So I'm just gonna pull out some of the molding paste, kind of put it at each one. I may actually need another palette after this. All right. So I've just put it beside the colors that I've made. I don't know if you can see it. And I'm just going to mix the two together. And I want to try not to mix each of the colors to the point where they're starting to blend and look alike. I want to have really nice, distinct, clean colors. Okay. So we'll start with this one. fine. Okay. So as I said, the molding paste is white, so it's gonna lighten up your color quite a bit. But you can always add more pigment and darken it as you go. I actually have only used molding paste, I think, in a couple of paintings, but I really enjoyed using it. And when I did use it, I did end up sealing the painting, so using varnish at the end, just to give it a nice uniform look. Okay, so we have our first one there. As you can see, it lightened up the color quite a bit, but I might add a bit more pigment just to get a really vibrant. I love really bold. My shop offers really bold and bright acrylic paintings, some of which you could see behind me. So I have acrylic paintings, I have calligraphy signs that I do, and I don't use stencils. I do all of my lettering by hand. Of course, I use a ruler, but I don't use any stencils. So it's a very nice organic feel to the lettering. Well, I am definitely making a mess everywhere. All right. I'm going to mix this color into this molding paste. So getting just a bit of a darker orange. So it'll be nice because it'll bring a new element into the painting. Okay. I'll just make sure it's darker. Okay, so I don't have enough pigment in here, so it's actually looking a bit lighter than my other color, but I could always add a little bit more crimson to darken it up, which I might do. Okay, and a bit more yellow to balance it out. So thank you for joining me today. I'm the owner and artist behind TS Originals Art. I'm doing a nice little abstract painting for you today. See how, with lots of texture, so I'm using molding paste. Okay. And if you notice, I'm not a clean painter, so I'll definitely make a mess as I go, but I feel like that's half the fun in painting. It's just making a mess. So we have two distinct oranges here. And then I'm making a darker one here. And we'll just start with these oranges. It'll be nice because these colors kind of have a sunset vibe to them. So I have a bit of orange. I'm going to put in some purples if I have time to add it in. I should. Yeah. So we'll get a sunset feel from an abstract painting here. Okay. And again, if you have any questions for me, you can ask to go live with me, and I can show you any of my paintings. I'm happy to do that. If you want to see, you're interested in something in my Etsy shop and you want to see it quote unquote in person, I'm happy to do that. I'm also happy to answer any questions you have via chat. If you don't feel comfortable coming live, you can do that as well. So my shop offers original acrylic paintings, the calligraphy signs, some of which you see behind me, and art prints. All right, so we have 3 distinct colors to play with right now, which I'm really excited about. So I'm gonna go ahead and start placing them in my 18 by 18 inch canvas. So I've taped them just to get the really kind of sleek sides to this. So I'm actually not going to use a paintbrush today. I'm just applying with my palette knife. And really with this, you can kind of do any pattern you want. I love to leave a little bit, like changing the thickness and the direction, just really having fun with it. I really enjoy this. You can get pretty clean lines, even if your tape isn't super secure. It shouldn't be too much of a problem. But I love, love, love this type. I find it so therapeutic, this type of painting. It's putting the thick cream. It's basically like a face cream or something that you're applying to this canvas. Tons of fun. Now, once I put it on, I can really do any design with it. Right now, I'm kind of just making sure I'm covering the entire space of it. It looks a little bit washed out, unfortunately, in the camera, but hopefully you're seeing the color itself. So once I do this, I kind of like to add patterns into it. And you could do the same pattern throughout the whole painting. You can do something different. I might today actually just do some lines through it. I think give it a nice, I use the colors of the sunset, so I'm thinking it'll nicely add some sort of movement to the painting. So similar like what you would see in water on the horizon. Although I might not keep the lines in the same direction at each one. We'll see how I feel about that. So I just did kind of my first corner here, which I already really like. I love the thickness and the texture. I just love to, and it's imperfect, which is perfect because I think that's what the beauty of this technique is. Not every line is perfect. Each section will have its own unique characteristic. Now, with the molding paste, it doesn't dry super quickly. So we're gonna have to be very careful not to put my hand in it, which I have a tendency to do. So, so when I remove this tape, I have a very clean edge. I did get a little bit there, but that's okay. Okay. All right. Okay, so that's the first little bit that I put on. There's tons of wet paint on this, so just be very careful where you're placing it. All right, so I'm going to do my next triangle in the center. It's actually quite a big one, but we're going to use that medium color orange, which I'm really excited about. All right. Wipe my palette knife so you don't get too much or any color mixing. And just make sure this is mixed up nicely. Again, I'm using the acrylic paint with my molding paste in here to get a really nice thick texture. All right, so here we go. So just laying it on here. I like to lay it on first and then do the kind of lines that I want in it, which is great. And again, if you have any questions throughout this about my shop, TS Originals Art, about my acrylic paintings, about anything that I'm doing today, you can feel free to message me. All right, perfect. So it's coming along. You know, each section will be quite unique. So you'll have ones that have lots of thick painting, lots of thin. I kind of really like that variety and that difference that you get from each one. All right. So here we have it. So I think with this one, I'm going to do a little bit of a different line here just to make it different for each one. I think when it comes all together, you'll see a nice pattern, different directions. Trying to make really nice, clean lines here. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll be painting until 3 p.m. So hopefully we can get this beauty done in that time. Really, the time for these types of paintings are in the color mixing. So I really like to think about what I'll be color mixing. Okay. Might have to start the lines again. Okay, that's better. So each section has a slightly different color. We'll have a slightly different pattern in it. I'm doing lines in each of them, but they're going in different directions, so it'll make this painting quite interesting. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Tiffany. I'm the owner and artist behind TS Originals Art. If you have any questions at all, you can join me by chat. So you can just ask in the chat box. But you can also ask to go live with me right now if you want. Ask a few questions about my art, about my shop. I'm also happy to show you any of my acrylic paintings in person, quote unquote, virtually in person, if you want to see them. All right. So here I've created the lines in this one. We are scraping off paint, so it's a little bit of a reductive technique here, but I want to make sure I'm not showing too much of the canvas itself, the base canvas. Okay, so I'm happy with how this looks right now. I'll try and smooth this out a little bit. Okay. All right. Just making sure I didn't stop prematurely. Okay. Okay, so I think from that, and I'll give my paints a little bit of a spray just with water, just to keep them wet because I don't want them to dry out as I'm going. So right now I can remove this. Be very careful. You want to try and get that thin line. And it's nice because sometimes with the molding paste, the line is actually a bit elevated. So it creates a really cool pattern there. So I just want to make sure I'm not getting paint everywhere. I tend to anyway, but gotta be as clean as possible today. Okay, so just getting those really crisp lines on this canvas. Now, because I don't want, what you can typically do with this paint is you can basically paint the canvas first in the color that you want and then tape it. So then when you remove the tape, the color of the tape once you remove the tape, that color is showing as part of your painting. But today I wanted all of the lines and all of the triangles to touch each other. So it makes it a little bit more complicated. You're going to have to add tape and remove as you do the painting. But I really like that look. And that's what I was going for today. Okay. So just making sure I don't have excess paint on myself. I'm going to do this other triangle at the edge here. And I could probably do this triangle at the bottom as well. If I have enough paint for it. I try and make the triangles look different, just for some interest, you know. I don't want it to look too contrived. Actually, that would make sense if I did that. All right. Actually, I'll leave the bottom triangle until that dries for a little bit. We'll focus on the side. Okay. So just cleaning off my palette knife. There's already paint all over my fingers. Again, what's the fun of painting if you don't have that? So I think right now I'm actually going to use the same color I did up there because I have some excess here. Or you know what? I'm going to darken it just slightly. So we have a darker orange because we don't necessarily have that. All of these oranges are quite light colored. So I'm going to darken it just by adding a bit more pigment, a bit more of the paint into the molding paste. Quite nice. I think I might actually add even more. Okay. I know it's hard to see on the camera, but I'm just mixing in a bit more of the acrylic paint into the molding paste, just to get as dark of a color as we can. The molding paste adds its own tint, so it adds white to the pigment. So you're kind of battling against that. Okay. And we'll see how it turns out, but we might decide to do triangles and squares, and we'll see how everything kind of lays together once this is on. So again, I'm just layering this mixture of paint and molding paste right on with my palette knife. And then I'll choose the directionality of the lines that I want to put on. Maybe they could be the same, maybe they could be different, but I'm trying to make them all different today. So we'll do vertical here. Okay, again, I'm doing a bit of a reductive technique here where I'm removing paint just to make the lines, but I don't want to expose the canvas underneath. So I'm trying to do it as light as possible just to get the shape of the lines. It's not 100% vertical, but that's okay. Yeah. Everything could just be its own little angle and different. And I make sure I remove the excess paint on my knife because sometimes it muddies up the lines. So I just want to make sure that I'm not doing that. Okay, that was a bit too deep. Thank you all for joining me today. I'm Tiffany and I'm the owner and artist behind TS Originals Art. And don't forget that today I have 15% off. It's the last day actually. I had it on all weekend. But today's the last day to get 15% off my entire Etsy collection. And the coupon code is made local. All caps and one word. So as I'm working on today, I sell original acrylic paintings, but I also sell calligraphy signs, some of which you could see behind me. So the Foodie for Life, for example, is available in my Etsy shop. And I also have art prints. So art prints are just scanned high quality versions of some of my acrylic paintings. They're available at a more affordable price. And they're 8 inches by 10 inches and they're printed on cardstock. So you can frame them and put them up. You can use clothespins to put them up. There's lots of different options. Okay, so I think I've done, I'm just gonna fix the tip of this one here. Okay. So right now we have this triangle done as well. So I tried to make it a bit darker than the other two so far. Again, I want the spectrum between yellow and orange or yellow and red. So I want different varieties of orange in between. And I think eventually I'll also be adding a bit of purple as well. So it's going to be a bit challenging at this point because I need to figure out how to put the tape so there's no white spaces in between, because I want all of the, okay, so that went through. I want all of the triangles or the shapes that we make today to be touching each other. So we're going to have to figure that out as we go. All right. Again, tons of wet paint on this, so I don't want to I don't want to make a mess as I go. Okay, get a bit more paper towel. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. All right. Okay, so we have 3 triangles done here, and we want to start just filling up the space. I do have one more color that I mixed that I haven't used yet, so that's kind of the next step. So we'll grab some tape. I don't believe this one was used yet. And we want to make sure that we're putting it in a way so that when it's all done, there's no white space. So that's what I'm trying to do. And you got to be careful because the paint is still wet, so it's a bit tricky. But we'll do our best today. Don't want a big handprint by accident. Thank you all for joining me. I'm Tiffany. I'm the owner and artist behind TS Originals Art. And there is a coupon code for my shop today, made local, all caps. And it's one word, and that gives you 15% off my entire Etsy shop. So you can get an original acrylic painting, some calligraphy signs that I do, I handwrite without the use of stencils, or some art prints. So lots of different options, and I paint in lots of different, typically my paintings are, besides the calligraphy signs, they're often stylized or abstract. But there's lots of different options. I have landscapes, cityscapes. So there's quite a bit of option on my shop. And I love painting many different themes. So I really, really enjoy that. So again, I'm just doing another layer, another triangle here. So basically I'm doing a bunch of shapes. I'm mixing acrylic paint with molding paste. So molding paste gives it this really nice texture. And as I basically, in this section, I'm using tape to get those really sharp edges. And then I'm using the palette knife to apply the paint and molding paste mixture. And really to create those lines. I'm creating lines in each of the triangles. Just for a bit of interest, right? Just to make it interesting. Now, molding paste, in my experience, takes a while to dry. So I have to be careful as I'm doing this not to touch the wet triangles. So I'll do my best to avoid that. And the other thing now, so I'm going to hit an edge of a triangle. Maybe I should turn it a little bit. I'm going to hit the edge of a triangle that I've already made. So I have to be really careful to try and ensure that I'm keeping that edge really sharp. Okay. I have different palette knives that I could be using here as well, which might help. I might actually try that out now. So I have this palette knife as well. This is something that I was inspired to get by Bob Ross, who always did the beautiful mountains using this type of palette knife. So I'll try and get the sharp lines using this. I'm going to use some of the, okay. And thank you all for joining me today. I'm having a blast this virtual market, and I hope you are too. There's tons of great makers from Ontario and beyond, and we're so excited to be here. Okay, so I think I got as close to a sharp edge as possible there. Again, I'm just laying down the acrylic paint and the molding paste mixture first, and then I'm going to do the lines that I've been doing in each of them. So it has really, really great texture. So I think I'm going to try and do a bit of a horizontal line here. I know I've already done it in the left corner, but they're not too close to each other. So it's making it a bit different each time. I'm going to put this down actually. Again, if you have any questions, you can feel free to message me in the chat box. Click and come live with me. It's also an option if you feel comfortable. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. If you're interested in a particular piece, I'm also happy to show you what it looks like live here. And I have all of my pieces in house here. All right, so I'm just creating this kind of line pattern that I have in my other triangles that I've created so far. I really love this type of painting because it's quite quick. It can be. I find that most of my time in these types of paintings are with color mixing. But I find color mixing, although quite challenging for me at least, and figuring out what colors work well together, excuse me, I think it's really, really therapeutic to finally get the colors that you have been trying to get. Okay, so I'm doing my best to create these lines. Again, not wiping away too much paint where I can see the canvas underneath. And you know, the lines will be imperfect, and that's the beauty of it. I really think it is. You know, not so contrived, but a beautiful, elegant, slightly wavy line. Just shows that every single shape that you create is quite unique and cannot be replicated. So just being very careful there around the edge. I'm trying to do that without mixing the wet paint in. Okay, so I'm going to touch up the top few lines because those didn't come out the way that I would prefer them to. The good thing is, as I said, with molding paste, it actually stays wet for quite a bit of time. So it's nice. So you can kind of play with the shape if it's still wet. Okay. So I think that's where I want this triangle to be. I do see a bit of canvas on the edge there. But that's okay too. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you get the, you know, you get a very kind of unique triangle each time, which is great. Okay, so this triangle is done. So I'm just going to remove this so we get, again, a nice clean line. And the edges will be elevated slightly because of the molding paste, and honestly, that's one of my favorite features of this. And you know, if things don't line up perfectly, that's fine. I would try and actually close out right now. Oh, that's a little bit too much. Okay, just to make sure it's closed off. Okay, so now as you can see, we're slowly building the acrylic painting. We're making all the spaces colored, so there's going to be no white space at all in this painting, which is what I love. And at the end of it, it's going to be something that you can feel and really enjoy. Okay, so we don't have too much of the remaining color. I do have a little bit of this dark one left and a lighter one. So we can maybe throw in a few smaller triangles just to use up the paint we have. I don't love wasting paint. And I honestly think, you know, the more different colors we have in this painting, the better. Okay. Yeah. Okay. What I might do actually is take the colors that we have, add a bit more crimson to it to have a bit of a darker, oh, just a palette knife down. So I might add a bit of crimson to it just to get that really dark color. And then I might end up doing one more light color because we have more on the orange side and less on the yellow side. So I might actually add a bit of yellow to it. So let's just do a small triangle here, I think. You will definitely be full of paint at this point, but that is so fine. That is fine. Okay. Just make sure that the edges line up as close as possible. Again, it's hard because, you know, the one that I just did is still wet. So you definitely don't want to smudge. You know, mistakes happen, unfortunately, but want to try and be as clean as possible with this. Okay, so we're switching to a slightly different color. So I'm going to wipe my palette knife again. Make sure there's no mixing in between the colors. And while I paint this, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my painting story. So I have been drawing for as long as I can remember, since I was a little girl. And I started painting in 2002. And I absolutely fell in love with it. And I've really been painting ever since. So I really love painting. Sorry, this is getting just a bit hard to work with. So I'm going to spray it. So it means that it's drying up. So I'm going to make sure. Okay. So yeah, I really enjoy painting. When I was drawing as a little kid, I always used to draw different types of dresses. That was what I really loved to do. Almost like fashion design. Design different dresses and different looks. And then when I started painting, I mean, I did a lot of landscape. But I think later on I started to really get into abstract painting. And I took a few courses at OCAD, continuing ed, on abstract painting. And a lot of it was linked to, you know, creating paintings that didn't use a paintbrush. So that's what I really loved. You know, we would use squeegees and we would use palette knives and we would use tons of different types of utensils to try and create a painting. And that really piqued my interest. You know, kind of thinking outside the box, making something really creative. Okay. So my color's on there. And again, I'm just going to try and make those lines like we've been doing. I think when this all comes together, it'll be really interesting because you'll have the nice texture You'll have lines going in different directions. You'll have different colors. And it's really like a soft set of sunset colors, which I love. I don't think there was enough paint on there to get the lines, so I'm just doing that now. Or maybe you can't see it when it's a slightly darker color. Okay. I find it really challenging in these paintings when you're doing this and then all of a sudden you come to a shape in the center and it's one of your last shapes and you're like, oh no, there's tons of colors touching it and I have to find a different color. So that's really when your creativity comes out. You're finding just a slight variation to make sure there's not two adjoining colors that are too close together. I mean, even if there is, it's fine. I like to make them as different as possible. Okay. All right. So I think that's good for that one as well. And I might switch over. Actually, I said I want to do one more light one, so I'll try and do that. And then we can switch over to potentially adding in some purples into this. As I said, I want to use the pictures of the colors of a really soft, beautiful sunset. So we have these oranges and these yellows, which are beautiful. And then we're going to be adding in the purples. Okay, so it's coming along. As you can see, maybe I'll lift it up just so you can see the texture, the different colors. It looks a little bit washed out when I'm further back, so you can see lots of textures, lines going in many different directions. And this nice kind of geometric shape that's forming, which I love. Okay, so let's see if the yellow is still okay or if it's drying up at this point. Okay. Guaranteed you will drop paint and make a mess, as I tend to do, but again, that's part of the fun of painting, in my opinion, so so that's okay. Okay, so this is a color I'll use. I might actually want to add a slight bit more molding paste and a slight bit more yellow. So I'm just going to add this to my palette at the moment. Okay. Just going to move this out of the way as well. Okay. So getting a bit of the yellow. We're going to need a bit more of this because we're doing lots of color mixing. Thank you all for joining me. We're just mixing up a touch more color. That's the part of this type of painting that takes the longest, in my opinion, is the color mixing. But once you get a really nice, kind of spectrum of different colors, like you can look at the color wheel, see what colors work together. I think that's what makes the painting. So that's kind of sometimes your hardest decision is the subject of your painting, but also the colors and how you're going to bring it all to life. Okay, so I'm just mixing up some color here. We're going to maybe want to bring that down here. So one of these. Yeah, so it might come down here. Because the other kind of lighter yellow we have is up there. So I don't want to bring them too close together. Okay, so now we're just going to put the tape where we want to put this triangle. So I would maybe do it, let's say down here. Yeah. Yeah, I think that would look okay. So again, we just painted this triangle above. So we want to make sure that we're being as, trying not to basically mix the colors, trying to make it as crisp of a line as possible. And just bringing that all together. So I just want to make sure they're intersecting at the same point. Again, the paints are wet, so you want to try your best not to touch what you've already done. But unfortunately, that's a reality of painting. It will happen. Okay. Just because it's lower, I'm going to sit down during this. So I've mixed kind of a lighter yellow here with the molding paste. So again, to get that texture. So I'm going to place that on. So if you're just joining us, I'm Tiffany. I'm the artist and owner behind TS Originals Art. So as you can see, I'm doing an abstract acrylic painting today, but I offer stylized acrylic paintings in my shop. I do landscapes, cityscapes, feminist art. I do lots of different pop culture art, nature art. So I do a bunch of different styles in my shop. And I also offer calligraphy signs, some of which you can see behind me, as well as art prints. So I did cause a little bit of mixture here. So I'm just going in to fix that because thankfully I still have this color. Okay. All right. That's the problem, you know, of painting wet, near wet. It's not a problem, but it's a risk that you take when you do that. But that's okay. Art is all about taking risks. Okay. So I'm getting all of my paint on here. I want to make sure I'm getting all of it at the bottom as well. So I'm just putting on the base color, as I said, and then the next step would just be to make those using kind of a reductive method. We're just creating those lines. So if we look at the lines so far, we have lines that are vertical here, and we have lines that are diagonal here. So I might go with a diagonal line still, but in the opposite direction. So just to change it up. And again, you want to wipe off your excess as you're doing this. And you don't want to make it, I like having the lines, but I also like having the lines not show the canvas underneath. Okay. If you have any questions at all, you can ask me through the chat, or you can ask to come live with me on video or using your audio, and you can ask me any questions you might have. So as you'll notice with this technique, the lines are not straight, but I think that adds to the beauty of it, because each line, each shape will be completely different than the last. You'll never have two shapes that are completely identical. Okay. So again, being careful not to touch the triangle that was there that we just painted above it. right, so maybe touch up some of these lines at the bottom here. Okay. Okay, great. So I think that triangle's done as well. So I'm going to just remove the tape from here. And what you'll notice as we keep going along is eventually you won't need the tape because you'll have the two sharp edges of each triangle that's forming your triangle already, or whatever shape you're making. So you're just going to have to be very careful not to touch the wet paint that's going on. I'll give you a closer look at what the painting is looking like so far. So it's using acrylic paint and molding paste to get that texture. So you can see, if I show it in this direction, you can see the texture of it. And I'm using a color spectrum that's going from yellow to orange to red. Okay. So just trying to mimic the sunset in an abstract way. Okay, so we have a bunch of beautiful orange to yellow triangles at the moment. So I'm going to have to tape up a few additional ones and make a few new colors now. So we can start doing some of the bigger triangles here. So what I would do is just this. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. So again, you want to try and make sure it's intersecting with the triangles that you already have. I'm trying to do it so that there's no white space. So I've created a triangle right here. So using the lines that are already made by the existing triangles. And then we're going to try and make, oh, that tape is too small. I'm going to try and make a triangle that goes from here, I would say, to the edge here. Okay. Doesn't quite go all the way to the top there, but I'll make sure it does. So those are two. And then we can figure out what we're going to do with this as well. So what I would say is to do one triangle. Sometimes just like to rip the tape in a way that'll work. So if I do the triangle from this corner, where we actually have a lot of triangles originating, and then just do it to the edge here. Again, as much as possible, try not to touch the wet paint that's there. I did, so that's why I'm warning people not to do it. Okay, so that will just be a small triangle there. Two larger triangles. And then what we can do after is I'd probably say 3 more triangles here and maybe 2 more down here. And then we'll have everything come together in a really nice way. So I'm going to switch out my palette paper because I'd like to create now, I will potentially come back to the yellow and orange because I want a really nice balance between the yellow and orange and the purples. So I don't want to make too much. I don't want to make too much of one color. So I'm just ripping off this palette. I don't want to let it dry per se, but what I'll do is just set it aside here. Okay. I'm going to spray it with water so it doesn't dry, and I'll spray it every so often. And then we have a fresh new palette to work with. And I'm going to try and use some of the red, since we're going to switch over to the red and purple spectrum, red to purple. I'm going to use a new palette. I'm going to still take some of that crimson and a bit of phthalo blue to make this part. Okay. So again, we got to mix the acrylic paintings first, and then we're going to mix it in with the molding paste. That's kind of the process that we have. So I'm going to go over here, take some of the crimson that was left over from our orange and red. Our oranges, reds, and yellows. So I have my crimson there, and now I'm going to add the phthalo blue. Okay. So my hands are full of paint. Now you know why all of my utensils are loved and full of paint as well. I've never painted where my hands have been fully clean, but that is okay. All right, so just getting a bit of this phthalo on here. It's a beautiful rich blue. Don't think we'll need too much because I want to stick a little bit more towards a crimson side if we can. But if we need a bit more variety, we can always go more towards a blue as well. And maybe a bit more crimson. Okay. Just making sure my palette and knives stay as clean as possible. All right. So thank you all for joining me today on my live painting adventure. Only the second time ever I've live painted. The first time was yesterday. So thank you for joining me. It was a blast yesterday. I created a painting. If you didn't see it, I created a painting of a photo that I took at Evergreen Brickworks. So it was a much more stylized, realistic painting. This time around, we're doing abstract with lots of texture and beautiful colors. Okay, so I'm going to start color mixing. So I have my crimson and my phthalo blue. Okay, so first I'm going to do crimson with just a touch of the phthalo. It gets dark quite fast with the phthalo, so we have to be pretty careful, otherwise it'll come out too blue. I want some really beautiful purples in here. And as I said, when you add the molding paste is white, so it's going to lighten up whatever you're mixing. So if you have a purple, it'll end up becoming a really light lavender, unless you're adding more and more pigment in. Okay, so this is my first color. It's more of a red-violet. So next I'm going to do another punch of the crimson, but with a bit more phthalo this time. Just see this really nice purple coming out. Okay. And you know, if you go over too much to the blue side, then you can always start again. Make an in-between color. Put a little bit of red and slowly work your way up to adding the blue. So you can see that this one's a little bit darker. So it's a really nice purple color. And I'll try and maybe go one shade darker. So in this, because we have such a different variety of colors here, I like to add or to mix up as many variations as possible. And even sometimes when I need an alternate color, I'll mix between two, because then you'll still get something different. It's real fun to do it this way. So here I put quite a bit of phthalo, and we'll see this color coming out even darker. But again, it'll lighten up with the molding paste. Okay, so you can see that color is darker still. So we can see how it goes. We'll use what we have here, but we can always add more phthalo, more crimson, modify how we like it. So I'm just going to spray each of these with a bit of water, make sure it stays nice and wet. I'm just going to have a sip of tea. Okay. So our next step is to add the molding paste. So I'm going to do so. My little molding paste jar is running out. So thankfully I have another one. This is the one that's almost finished. So I'll just put a blob of molding paste right beside each of my color mixtures. So we can start mixing. Okay. So I don't think we have too much left in here, but try and use up as much as I can. So molding paste just to give it lots of beautiful texture. Okay. These are actually quite big triangles now that I've left. So I might put a large amount of molding paste just to make sure we don't run out. You can always change up the thickness of the triangle. So if you are running out, which is what I tend to do, or you can always add more molding paste. That's also an option. Okay. So slowly but surely. I told you everything's loved. So here it's full of molding paste already. And it was a brand new palette knife. But again, that's the beauty of painting. Okay, so I've pretty much used up this bottle of molding paste. And I'll open up my new one. I learned my lesson this time and got the really, really large size. So I could do tons more of these paintings, which I'm really excited about. I really enjoy this type of painting. Okay, so I'll just get the amount that's left on the lid here. And it's brand new and fresh, so nice. Okay. So just getting a bit of molding paste. Thank you all for joining me. As I color mix, I'll tell you a bit about my shop. So if you haven't checked it out already, it's TS Originals Art. I have an Etsy shop. I also have my own, so the link in my Etsy shop is there, but it's T Scarcelli Original, so SCARCELLI.etsy.com. I also have my own, you can see my full collection, including my custom artworks and some of the ones that I've already sold on my website at tsoriginalsart.com. And I specialize in offering acrylic paintings. So similar to what I'm doing here, I might have an abstract painting, stylized painting in many, many different themes. So I have feminist paintings, I have nature paintings, I have architecture, I have lots of different pop culture, anything, you name it, I have a large variety. And in addition to my acrylic paintings, I use acrylic paint to also create calligraphy signs, which you can see behind me. So these are available as wood panels, or they're available on stretch canvas. So those are also an option. I love doing those. I also offer art prints. So select numbers of my acrylic paintings are offered as art prints. So they're 8 inches by 10 inches for the most part. And you can see, and it's basically a more affordable way for you to get an original painting by me. And you can frame those. They're on 100-pound cardstock. So you can get them framed, put them, like with a clothespin, anything like that. And if you want to see any of my paintings, calligraphy signs, please let me know. I have them all in studio with me, and I can show you them in person. And the other part of my business that I offer is I offer custom work as well. So if you're looking for acrylic painting to match any decor in your house, I offer that. Assuming that it's kind of within my style, which is abstract or stylized. But I'll do any number of themes you'd like. I don't necessarily specialize in portraiture or anything like that. But if you want a stylized landscape or an abstract piece in a specific color, you're more than welcome to message me about that. I also offer custom calligraphy signs. So all the signs you see behind me are ones that I made for my shop, but except the always sign is not available. But basically those are made for my shop, but I also have part of my business where you can message me and you're able to customize basically the entire sign. So the materials that I'm using and I'm painting on, the colors of the lettering, the saying, the type of font that I'm using, the colors of the background. It's all up to you, whatever you like. So that's what I offer as well. So you can message me for custom artworks and get that process started. Okay, so I'm almost done mixing all of my colors for this kind of next set of the painting here. So as I said, I wanted to mimic the sunrise, the sunset, whatever you look at it. So I've mixed all of my colors in the kind of crimson to purple spectrum. Only 3 for now, but I will potentially modify as I need it. And here they are with the molding paste. So you can see they've lightened up significantly, but it really matches the lighter coloring of this painting so far. So I'm really enjoying the colors. So I'm going to start applying it here. And putting it in each of the triangles that I've already formed. So let me just clean the palette knife. So I'm going to start with this really beautiful, I love this color, this beautiful lavender here. And as I do it, I just want to thank you for joining me in this live stream. I've honestly been having a blast. It's been really fun, this show so far. And I hope you're really enjoying it. There's so many amazing makers that are here showcasing how they create their artwork or their jewelry or any of their passions as well. It's really been a fun opportunity to be able to do something like this virtually. Okay, so I'm getting really close to the edge here. And so what I'm going to do is switch to that palette knife here to get a little bit of a closer edge. So you gotta be very, very careful here. Okay. So let's see if we can get this really, really nice edge. These ones are a little bit trickier than the ones with the tape. The tape, you could be a little bit messier. When you have the tape, it creates the straight edge for you. When you don't have it, it's all up to you. So you gotta be very, very careful. Sometimes I find it easier to work on a flat surface. So you may also find that a little bit easier. Okay, so the other thing I want to do is just a straight line going down. So we're gonna try and do that. I don't want to see any white of the canvas behind. Okay, so I just want to make sure it's not drying. I know molding paste takes a little bit to dry, but can't be too safe. Okay, so we're almost done the edge here. Oh, see, I got a little bit on that side. Whew, was able to clean that off, thankfully. All right. So trying to just get it clean. Try and keep that edge as clean as it was with the tape on. Okay, so I think I've done it now. What I will do here, I think there's a little bit that needs to be straightened here. So what I'm going to do now is start to do the lines that I had in each of the other ones. So again, just looking at what we have available here, I might do a downward diagonal just for a little bit different directionality to the line. So I didn't put too much. I might actually put a little bit more paint on this. Just at least in the corner, because I just want to be able to make those lines. Okay. I hope I'm not blocking your view. No, you can see it. Okay, great. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to type in the chat box. You can also request to come live with me using your audio and your video. Okay. You can ask me anything about my Etsy shop, about the painting that I'm doing today, anything. I think hold on one second. Looks like I might have a request, so let's see what's here. Okay. I guess not. I hope. I see a moderation panel here, but if you have questions, you can feel free to ask in the chat box. Okay. Okay, so just making these downward diagonal lines. Again, the lines won't be perfect, but it will really create a really nice effect once it's all done. You know, each shape will look different. And again, you can sometimes see, because this is a bit of a reductive method, so you're taking paint away, you can sometimes see the canvas underneath. I don't like it showing too much, but I think in a few instances it's okay. So I'm just trying to make it all even. Touching up some lines I've done. Again, it won't be perfect, but I at least want to make sure there's enough that the lines seem, I guess, as uniform as possible. Okay. I think I'll touch these ones up a bit more. Okay. So I think I might leave that one as is. Again, not perfect, but it'll create a really nice effect when everything is done. So I'll move this tape to get that sharp line. I did get a bit of paint here, but no worries. The molding paste and the acrylic paint will cover that up, no problem. Okay. All right, so now we have this little triangle here. And I might actually use the same color just because I don't have too much of it left. And I think, and it's far enough away, so I'm going to use the exact same color here. Again, we're gonna have to be very careful to try not to mix it with the orange below or the orange above. I really am enjoying this beautiful purple, this beautiful light lavender color. It's gorgeous. Okay. So again, I'm going to use my palette knife to just try and get that very, very straight line, or as much as possible. You know, we got to embrace the beauty and imperfections here. Okay. So I did get a little bit into the orange. So I'm just going to wipe that off. There we go. It's actually quite dry, which I'm surprised about, but that's nice that the orange below is dry. Acrylic paint dries very fast, but I find that the molding paste makes it dry a bit slower. Okay. Then I'm just going to do this corner here. Try and get everything. You don't want to leave any little piece of it white because it'll stick out. Okay. I think I've gotten all the white at this point. So again, we can do the really beautiful lines that we've been doing. I'm trying to make them go in all different directions. So I'll do not a vertical line because we have that here. So maybe diagonal in this direction this time. Okay, again, wiping off the excess paint with this reductive method. There's a little bit of dried paint that was in there, so just removed it. And again, I want to try not to take so much paint off that you can see the canvas too much. Okay. You know, some of my lines are becoming quite wavy, but that's okay. Love the imperfections. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to ask using the chat box. We have about another half an hour together, and I'm really hoping I can get this done in that time. But I'm just going to send a quick message letting know that I'm live painting. So I'm just going to do a quick message to people. All right. Just to encourage a bit more people to join us here. And since we already have the colors mixed, oh, perfect. So since we have the colors mixed, and there's not too much, I'm doing the same thing as I was doing before. So I have all the colors mixed, as I said, and I'm ready to just put it on and clean my brush, put it on. This one is done. So I could remove this. Okay. I think there's a little bit that I want to remove here, just to make it a little bit cleaner. Okay, I think that's good. Like, I'm okay if a bit of canvas is showing, but I also don't want it to show different themes. But I also offer calligraphy signs, as you can see behind me, and I also offer art prints. So there's a lot of variety in my shop. So just putting the molding paste and the paint mixture on here. Again, we're going to have to be very, very careful on the edges here to try and keep that beautiful crisp line. Okay, so I'm going to use this palette knife again. Obviously, it needs to be wiped down a little bit because it has the previous color and I don't want to get them mixed up in there. So we're going to use this color. Okay. It's slowly coming together. It's hard to see what things are going to look like when, you know, you have one or two triangles together, but now it's slowly starting to come together. And I think we'll be able to, I'd love to finish this on stream. So it'd be great if we can get that done in the next little bit. I also don't want to rush it, so we'll see how it goes, where we're at 3 o'clock. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to message in the chat. Don't forget to take advantage of my coupon. It's 15% off today. Today's the last day for it. And it's the Etsy Made Local for Etsy Made Local show. So the coupon code is Made Local, all caps, one word. Okay. So this is coming together. We have the acrylic paint and molding paste mixture to give us a really, really nice texture. And I'm just trying to fill in this triangle and keep those really, really crisp lines that we made with the tape. Putting it on with a palette knife. Okay. Okay, so we got that in the corner there. Now I just got to do this on this side. Okay, just try and make sure there's no white because I feel like that'll stick out a lot. So we want to make sure it's covering the entire triangle. So we have that. And now we can start doing the lines like we were talking about. And I think I'm just going to do horizontal lines here. You'll have duplicate line directions, but again, I'm a fan of making it so that they're not necessarily the same. Okay. And again, I said this is a reductive method we're using, so make sure that, you know, we're scraping off a bit of paint to make the lines, but we're not scraping off so much that you can see all of the canvas behind it. And actually, I see a bit of canvas right there, so just covered it up with my palette knife. Thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a blast. I love, love, love creating art. And if it could be enjoyable for others to watch, I'm happy for that as well. It's kind of so soothing. I see videos online of people color mixing or painting. I find it quite soothing. So it's nice to do this on your Sunday. You know, you might be at home relaxing. Okay. So there you go. Done. This triangle is now done. So the only one we haven't used so far is kind of this lighter pink. So I'm going to put that on. But first we're going to have to put a bit more tape on. Make our last final few triangles here. Okay. It'd be great if we can get this done by 3. So let's see where we want to place our last set. Our set of triangles. Again, we still have the orange and the oranges that we pre-mixed, and I hope they're staying wet over there. But we should be okay. So Just need a bit of my tape. Okay, so now we're looking at where we want to put our last set of triangles. So I'm thinking, yes. So we'll do one. I need a bit longer piece of tape. So one here, I would say. Yeah. So it actually might need a few more. And then one here. Okay. So two more triangles there. So let's use the color we have already mixed. It's the lighter pink. And I'll put it on. Okay. So making sure I'm covering every inch of the canvas that's visible. Okay. Trying not to, I have many edges right here. So I just want to make sure I'm not making those edges muddied. I want to make them quite nice. So my other palette knife, I just have to wipe off. Okay. So I'm going to use this to just try and make the straight edges again. All right. Okay, so I went a little bit over the line there. I think I'm going to have to clean that up. Okay. Okay. So just trying to make sure all these edges still remain clean and are filled with paint. Ooh, the tip is a tricky one. Doing our best. Okay, and then just trying to get this smooth surface with this beautiful palette knife, which makes it a lot easier. And it's not necessarily going to be perfect. Again, embrace the imperfections. Okay, so I think we've covered most of the white here. So now that I put my base layer on, I'm going to do those lines again, trying to erase some of the, or remove some of the excess paint. So I'm just going to do an almost horizontal line, but moving upwards slightly, so slightly diagonal. We're going to have enough of this color paint to do another triangle. So I might decide to do it on the opposite side of the canvas. Again, I don't want two similar colors near each other. And even if they are, It's fine. It's just my preference. Okay, so there's a bit of paint that got onto this purple again. Just want to make sure it's all okay. Thank you so much for joining me today. I plan to end at 3, but I'd love to get this done on stream. So we'll see where we're at 3 o'clock. Still have 15 minutes, so no rush. Okay. It's a bit tricky doing these lines and trying not to intercept with the other triangles. I just don't want to ruin the work that I've already done. Okay. Okay, almost there. All right. Beautiful. So we'll take this off. Nice crisp edge. It's a palette knife that's gone down. Okay, so now we have this other triangle here, which I might actually do with the same color. I should have enough, or I'll mix these two colors together. I should have enough of this. If not, we'll do a slightly thinner coat. Okay. So then you'll kind of just have the edges to do. That'll be our last portion. So again, I'm going to use this palette knife to try and get in the corners because it has a nice pointed tip. And if you have any questions at all about my work, my Etsy shop, TS Originals Art, please feel free to message me via chat. You can ask to come live on screen with me if you have any questions. Okay. Okay, so these seem to have gone a little bit over the line. So I'll just pull them back over. Okay. So again, just trying to cover all of the white space in this shape. And now I have to do this kind of upper space as well. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to message in the chat, ask to come live with me. This piece is coming along. I'd love to finish it on stream. I know we're closing in on 3 p.m. but we'll try and do what we can here. I use these. So this painting includes acrylic paint, but we've mixed it with molding paste to give this beautiful, beautiful texture. I'll hold it up to the camera shortly so you can have a look at the texture and the colors. Sometimes when you're seeing it from a distance, it's a little bit washed out. But it has some really rich colors, similar to what you'd see in a sunset. So yellows and oranges and purples. That's what we were trying to mimic today. So some of those gorgeous sunset colors. Okay. And now I'm going to use a little bit of that reductive method and remove some of the paint to create those lines. Okay, see a little bit of white there. So just trying to make sure we cover all of the white of the canvas, all of that gesso underneath it. Okay. Gotta make sure I'm not pulling that purple in. And I'm keeping that line as crisp as possible. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Tiffany. I'm the owner and artist behind TS Originals Art. This is my second time ever live painting, and I'm so happy it's with you. This has been a really, really fun experience. It's like this beautiful rose, like a purple rose color. Really love this. Like some of your lines will be closer together. Some will be further apart. It is absolutely fine. Makes the painting quite unique. Okay. So I see a little bit of white there, so I just covered it up. And again, see a little bit. I just want to make sure that I'm not. Okay. Okay. Just want to make sure this is staying as sharp as possible, this line. Okay. So we're going to remove that. So as I promised, I'll hold it up to the camera so you can see all of the colors and textures. You can see all of the textures, colors. It's really coming along. Okay. So I'm going to try to do a few more triangles before I get going. I see we're at 253. I don't have any colors left. Might need to quickly mix a bit more. So I'll do a bit more to get as close to a finished product as possible. I won't be able to sign it today only because it's quite wet still, so I won't be able to do that. Okay. And so this bottom one will be this. All right. Let's make sure it goes all the way to the bottom of the canvas. Okay, so I've made 2 extra triangles there. I'm gonna quickly mix some more color. And I can use the yellow and crimson we had left over to make another orange, because we want it to balance out quite a bit. We don't want it to be too purple or too orange. We'll try and clean this off. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to message in the chat. Ask about my Etsy shop, my process, any questions you might have. Okay. So I'm making quite a dark orange here, because we have a little bit of a dark orange, but we're trying to make a variety of different colors here. So I'll try and darken up this orange as much as possible. Okay, now we'll get a little bit more of the molding paste, mix it with our acrylic paint here. Ooh. This is a bit of a bigger canvas. It's 18 inches by 18 inches. So it's taking a bit more time to do all of the coverage that you need. But I'll make a big batch of this darker orange so we can make sure we're getting as much coverage as we need. Okay, so now I'm going to mix the color into the molding paste. Get a really nice orangey color. I'd love to finish this painting, so I might run over 3 o'clock slightly. But I'd love a finished painting to show at the end of this. So if you stick with me, we can make it happen. Okay, so it's looking a little bit too light. As you can see, I'm just mixing it on the paper here, on the palette paper. So I'm going to add a bit more pigment. I don't want it to match too much to this color right there. So I'd love to add more color. Oh, I might actually need a skosh more crimson, unless actually that does look quite a bit darker. So we'll just kind of do a test patch and see how much darker it is. I'd say it needs a little bit more crimson. At least that's where I would like it to be. So we'll add that in. Maybe not that much crimson. We'll just add that in. Because as I said, we really, really, really want to get the spectrum of different colors here. And maybe our last color, we can also make a purple, maybe like this beautiful darker purple that I really loved. Might be able to do that. Okay. So I think we're getting there. It's definitely a bit darker than where it was. So we'll stick with this. Okay. Oh yeah, much darker. Okay, so we'll stick with this color for this. I'm just gonna actually place this. I'll just hold it. It's been a pleasure painting with all of you. I really enjoy you sticking with me, watching this live painting session with me, Tiffany, from TS Originals Art. Okay, we got this color on for the most part. I'm going to need that pointy edge to try and get in the corner there. So I'm going to wipe it off because it still has that lavender color on it. Make sure that's clean. You can find all of my collection, all of my art at tscarcellioriginals.etsy.com. Scarcelli is SCARCELLI. Okay. Perfect. So that's on. And we're going to do the lines again. So let's see. I'd say vertical lines this time. So we'll do vertical. It's going to be really interesting with all these kind of sunset-like colors, as well as with the sunset colors, as I said, and the lines going in different directions. It's going to be very interesting. Lots of things to touch and feel and look at. Lots of different interest points. Okay. So I said I was going to end at 3 today, but I'm going to stick on a bit longer to try and finish this beauty up. I'm really loving all the interest points we've created here. All right. So that's pretty much done. I did get a little bit of white in here, unfortunately. We can blend that in a little bit so it doesn't stick out as much. So it's just, oh, that's perfect. Okay. So again, your lines won't be perfect, but it comes together really nicely. Okay. And then that pops off. And I'm going to use the same color down here as well, because I think it's a really, really beautiful color. And I think we need to use it in more than one spot. That's the beauty of this type of painting. If you use multiple colors, kind of creates a little bit of flow in your painting. Yeah. Again, if you have any questions at all about my shop, TS Originals Art, or what I'm creating today, please feel free to message me. We're using just a bit of acrylic paint and the molding paste to really add texture. This is my second time or third time using using molding paste. I really, really love texture, so it's a great way to get texture without using too much paint, too much of your pigment. All right, so I've put the acrylic paint on, and now we'll use that reductive method again just to create the lines. And I'm going to do long lines here. Wipe it off as I go. So sometimes there'll be dried bits in there, unfortunately. You know, as we're working longer and longer with this, there'll be portions of it that'll dry, and that's okay. Okay. Again, we're starting to see a little bit of the canvas, and that's okay. I just want a nice balance. I don't want to see too much of the canvas. There, that's like a little bit too much for me. Okay. Okay, so I might just clean up that top line. But basically, it's a little bit hard because it's near the edge and I don't want it to kind of go over and make a mess, but okay. I might actually just need to do the lines again just to clean this up. So thank you for sticking with me beyond 3 p.m. Really adamant about wanting to finish this on stream with all of you. So you can see the finished product. Okay. So I'm really liking how this color came out. So again, we'll just remove the tape. And as you can see from this one, I'm just gonna have to lift this to remove the tape. So we did get a little bit of paint outside of the lines. That is completely fine because what we'll do is we have to paint those triangles anyway, so we can have some really nice coverage outside of that. So as you can see now, what's left is a triangle and a triangle. So we won't have to do any additional taping. We just have to fill those two spaces in. And then this one, it could be a triangle if it went off of the page. But what I might do is just cover it so it's actually making a triangle on the top. And that'll be my last up there. Okay, so I just need to find my masking tape. This has been a really, really fun painting with you all. I really appreciate you coming to visit my virtual booth, coming to Etsy Made Canada, watching tons of the makers make things that they're very, very passionate about. It means a lot to us. Okay. Okay, so as I said, we have one triangle up here. We're going to have another one. So we're going to have two here and we're going to have two here. Again, we can mix one color and make it and use it top and bottom just to give a little balance to the painting. So what color should we use? We can use a light orange. And I said I want to make that dark purple for up there, and we can probably reflect that dark purple here as well. So we'll do a dark purple and a lighter orange. So we have the orange already made. Actually, yeah. I just gotta make sure it's not too light, because then what we'll have is we'll have the color being too close. So we need to make sure. My palettes are just on the floor, so you can't see them, but this is how it gets at the end. You're trying to fill in all the spaces. You want to make sure you're getting colors that aren't too close to the ones adjacent to it. So let's see if I can make something that's a bit lighter orange. And again, what I would do is just like put a little tester and see how it looks against everything else. And then make sure that you're okay with that color. And I might actually put a touch more. Okay, so this is a really beautiful light orange. Let's see if this, yeah, that looks actually quite a bit different to me. So we're gonna pop that up here. And I think it's a little bit too close to this one down here. So we'll only use it on the top here. But you know, if it works to use the same color top and bottom, you go right ahead. Again, I just don't love when the colors are too close to each other and they're adjacent, but because we're working top and bottom, that is okay with me. Okay. We don't have too much of this color mix. We're going to try and make sure that we get as much coverage as possible. We still want it to be thick because we got to make those lines. So we're going to get that pointed palette knife that I have. Make sure that it's clean. And just make sure it's touching all the edges. Okay. So what I did is I actually just used this color, but I added a bit of yellow to really lighten up and make a nice light orange. And thankfully this one's a bit more yellow, so it works. It's not too close to any of the adjacent colors. Sometimes I find in this painting we worked inside out, which I find is a lot easier. A lot of times I'll accidentally work outside in, and then to find colors on the inside that work is very, very difficult. Okay. Just put that, making sure you're covering every inch of this canvas. We don't want any weights. Okay. So I had a bit more of the paint up there, so I just pulled it down. We want to make sure we get the full coverage here. Just like with makeup, full coverage, that's what you want. Okay. So we're just making sure we fill up the entire space with all of its edges. Okay. Don't want to leave any part of the canvas white. Feel free to message me if you have any questions at all. Or you can come on live with me, whatever you feel most comfortable with. You can use the chat function. Okay, perfect. So that's all on there. So all I'm going to do is now do the lines, and I'm thinking I'm going to do them diagonal, moving upward. Okay. So just as I do that, I'll talk a bit about my Etsy shop. So during this Etsy Make Local, it ends tonight at midnight. I have a 15% off coupon code. And it applies to everything in my store. So my art prints have free shipping anyway. So that's a great deal. You can get an art print for free shipping as well as getting the 15% off. But it really applies to anything. If you're looking at a specific painting or a calligraphy sign, you can use that coupon code. My Etsy shop sells original acrylic paintings, similar to what I would make here, what I'm making here. But I also have calligraphy signs, art prints. I have lots of different options that are available. Okay, so this one's done as well. I'm just gonna pull the tape off. So now we're at a point where we have only 3 triangles left. And thank you for sticking with me. I know we're a little bit past 3, but hopefully we can finish this off with a few beautiful purples. So make a really beautiful sunset colors. Okay. So I probably want to make a darker purple for here and here. And then here we can do either a light orange or a light purple. We'll see how it comes together. So let's work on the dark purple for now, because we know that's going on in 2 places. So I already have the dark purple color, and I just need to mix it with the molding paste to get that texture. Okay. So got my huge bottle of molding paste, put it on my paper palette, and now I'm just going to mix in this dark purple color that I have. I'm not sure if it'll create such a dark color, only because I don't have too much of the pigment left, but we'll see how it comes out. Even if it's a beautiful lavender color, I think that would work as well. Although it looks like it's coming out quite dark, so that's good news. And I made quite a bit of it, so I just added the molding paste so you can see the color that it's creating. Again, the molding paste is white, so it adds a tint to whatever color, unless you add a lot more pigment. But I actually prefer it coming out as a really nice pastel color. I think it's beautiful, this mixture that comes out. So we're just going to plop this on the top, and we're going to make sure this tape is down so the edges remain clean throughout the whole process. So we're going to put this on. Don't want to put too much accidentally and then it falls and all my hard work. So I'm actually, since this is such a small piece, I'm going to get the other palette knife because it has those really nice sharp edges. And that way you can get that really crisp, clean line. So I'm going to switch to using my other palette knife, which is down here. Okay. And wiping it because it had that orange from the last triangle that we did. So making sure it's pretty clean. I think that's good. Okay. And now we're going to just make sure that this edge is really nice and crisp. I really, really love using molding paste. I find that I don't use it enough in my paintings. I use it mostly for abstract, but it could easily be used for a beautiful landscape, doing, you know, actually textured mountains or water. So I think I'll incorporate it more. I really enjoy working with molding paste. And there's tons of mediums now that are coming out, like crackle medium, gel mediums. Well, I don't know if they're necessarily new, but they're new to me, so. Okay, so that just mixed in, so made sure I got it out in time. I feel like the crackle medium might be new, but not sure about gel mediums. But it's cool because you can add these mediums to get multiple different effects. Like this one gives you texture, but there's some other mediums that can give you a really nice kind of watercolor feel. So you're not really using watercolors, but you still get that beautiful effect of a watercolor. You got the crackle ones that make that crack, so it can look like sand or earth. Lots of different options these days. Really enjoy that. Okay, so I've covered my triangle above. And again, I'm just going to go in and create those lines. So I think this one, I'm going to do lines in this direction. So we'll start at this corner. So going diagonal downward. And I think I'll do it this way. And you know what? Even if your edges get a little bit of paint on them, it's okay, because what you can do is go back over them with gesso, or even if you wanted to make the edges, let's say purple or black to make it pop, those are all great options. Okay, we've got a little bit of paint in this. Just want to make sure it stays crisp and clean. It's hard when you're working wet with wet right beside it. Mistakes are definitely made, but that is okay. That's what art is all about, is experimenting, having fun, making mistakes. A lot of times when I'm painting, I actually tend not to use easels. I tend to do flat surface painting. So, but it's been very interesting on an easel. You don't get a lot of movement when you're working on an easel, which is ideal for your smooth lines. But it's definitely an arm workout. Okay, so we're almost done. Just doing the little tip here. Okay, so we're going to put that exact same color down here in the right corner. And I'm going to wipe off the excess orange that's here, because I don't want it to start merging together and creating a brand new color. And then we'll only have one triangle left. I think I'm going to make it a light yellow orange. But we'll see if the colors, what colors are available. Sometimes I do it based on that because I hate wasting paint. And the light yellow orange is going to definitely suit that area because there's nothing nearby. There's one here, but I think there's enough distance for it. It's not connecting on a long edge. So I'm just going to lift it up a little bit, making sure that I'm getting coverage, complete coverage on the bottom here. Thank you so much for painting with me. This is so much fun. Having a great time. I hope you are too. Hope it's been a relaxing Sunday for you, and that my paint has helped with that. Okay, so again, we're going to use this pointed palette knife. Sorry, I'm trying to get it really close so I can see the line. I don't mean to block or obstruct your view, but I'll put it back once I'm done this. So again, I'm just covering the area first, and then we'll create those lines. I'm just scraping off where the orange is because I don't want it to cover. Okay. Again, making sure we're doing this underside here because we don't want it to be missed. Okay, so that color's on. So we're going to do another, I think I'll do a horizontal line here. Yeah, because we don't have a similar one here. So this one's a little tricky because unfortunately it's the top corner here got a bit of the other color in it. So I'm going to try and make sure that that does not mix. So I'm going to put a bit more paint on my brush. So I'll start with a bit of an elevated line instead of removing paint, just so, because if you remove paint, you'll expose that kind of orange area. Okay, well, a horizontal line started to go downward a little, but that's okay. Again, that's the beauty of each painting, each little square in this painting being unique. Okay. Okay. This paint actually got quite thick at the bottom because I made a large amount and I put on a large amount. But that's okay. I think even having differences in the texture or the height of the paint also adds a lot of interest, in my opinion. So it works for me. Okay, I'm just going to go through it again because I can see some canvas on the edge, which I think is somewhat unavoidable, but okay. I think that's good. I did get a little bit of purple in the orange here, so I might have to just see if I can. Okay, perfect. This definitely includes finger paintings. I love finger paintings. So there you go. All right, so we're almost done. We just got one more triangle at the bottom. And that, we're gonna try and do a light yellow. So I have an orange, or sorry, a light yellow orange. So I have an orange here that I've already mixed up. If we can still use it, that would be the most ideal. And all we would have to do is add in some yellow. Maybe not that much yellow, but might need a little bit of molding paste for this. But we'll see. I do have a little bit here. Again, I really hate wasting paint. So if I could reuse some of the paint that I didn't use the first time around, that's kind of my ideal choice. Okay, so I might need a little bit more molding paste, and that'll be good because it'll lighten the color up quite a bit, which is what we wanted. We want like a lighter color here. Okay. All right, so just mixing up the acrylic paint, the molding paste, trying to get a color that's diverse than what we have there. I have a little bit of the crimson here, so I'm adding that in as well. So it doesn't just, I don't necessarily want just a yellow. I want it to be a mixture of the two, so we get like this really nice. Yeah, that's actually quite nice. It's not too close to that. It's a bit darker than that. So I think that'll work for our purposes. So again, I'm gonna have to lift it just to get on the underside as much as possible. So I can do that first. bit tricky when you get to the ends, just because you're working with like really tight edges. Doing your best to put everything together again, making colors that aren't too close to what's around it. Okay. So we're slowly getting there. Just putting. Okay. Just noticed a bit of dark paint getting on there. I'm not sure where that came from, but we'll try and cover it with the. We'll try and cover it with this orange. Okay. Again, trying to get that crisp edge as close as you can. And trying to hide all of the canvas primer that's on there, the gesso. Okay. Okay. Again, trying to cover all that you can cover here. So I'm just putting on that base coat in this triangle. I'm sorry if you can't see it. I'm just, I've moved it from the easel because it's right at the bottom. Okay. So I've gone on the purple a little bit. Just gonna clean that off. Sorry, I know you can't see it. I'm just doing the edge of the canvas. Making sure it's all covered. Making sure there's no white space that's left. I love these canvases that are, these paintings that have so much going on, tons of texture, tons of color. Okay, so I put that on, and the last piece that we have to do is to do the lines on this one as well. So I'm thinking maybe a vertical line here, since we haven't done that one in a while. So maybe I'll start at the edge. Getting a little bit of paint on myself, but that's just, you know, par for the course, I guess. Oh, hold a bit of the purple down. So I'm going to make sure that's covered. Again, when you're working wet with wet paint and the shapes beside it are still wet, it becomes a little bit complicated, but doing our best to make it work here. What I want to do here is I just want to make sure I'm getting right to the edge, because I don't want it to look like there's two edges. All right. Let's just make sure it's, again, it's hard not to, but you can see the canvas at the edges, so I'm just redoing some of the lines. I mean, you're going to see it, but you know, you can maybe fix it up as much as possible. So I'm just going to take a look at that again and make sure. Yeah, so there's a bit of again, just want to make sure it's not too much canvas is showing. Okay, and I think that's good. Actually, maybe I'm just gonna put a little bit more at the bottom so that it doesn't scrape all the way to the point where it gets to the canvas, because that's what I'm trying to avoid. And I'm going to make sure the lines go all the way to the top, and also making sure that there's no blurring or smudging from the other colors. I did go over a little bit here on this side, so I might actually just clean this and make sure that that stays. Thank you so much for sticking with me. We are almost done this beauty. I'm just gonna scrape it to make sure that we, okay, perfect. So now, perfect. So we're done. Thank you so much for sticking with me. We are done our acrylic painting with molding paste. And this is what it looks like. So lots of different textures, lots of different colors. Yeah, I've had a blast painting with you today. Thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you enjoy the rest of Etsy Made Local. Again, you can get 15% off of all the items in my Etsy shop if you use coupon code Made Local, which is all caps in one word. I have original acrylic paintings, art prints, as well as calligraphy signs like the foodie sign that you can see behind me. So I really hope you enjoy the rest of your show and have a great Sunday. Thank you so much. And I'll add pictures of this to my Instagram if you want to see the final. So you can follow me at TS Originals Art. Okay? Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.